All right, hey, how's it going? This is Sharif from productionhackers.net. Today I got something really special for y'all. It's a man named Julbert Abraham. Julbert Abraham. I didn't hope I didn't
Yes.
get that wrong.
No, that was perfect,
Oh,
dude.
oh,
I
oh,
love it.
awesome. Yeah, the LinkedIn Pro. So you can check him out on Twitter at the LinkedIn Pro, and you can also check him his out on his LinkedIn, Julbert Abraham, or just type in LinkedIn Pro, the LinkedIn Pro. I think you should find him.
LinkedIn guy, LinkedIn bro, pop up.
Fantastic. Yeah, so he's basically created a system for capturing leads through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So he's basically been able to make business purely off of social media through LinkedIn, and I really found that fascinating as well. Being a kind of person I'm more onto Twitter, and here's someone more on the LinkedIn side. I really want to hear about how you do that. I want to learn about that, and so on. So. The other day, actually, it was an informal interview. We were probably going to do a live thing or a public thing as well. A guy named Jason Sugar,
Yeah.
and he's a WordPress
Huh?
type of guy. He's a word,
Nice.
yeah. And I met him on LinkedIn, and I told him about you, and he was interested too. People who are
That's
making business
awesome.
online, yeah, they want to know. So my first question, keep it simple. How many years have you been at this?
I've been doing this. I guess my short story is I got laid off from work back in 2011,
Right.
and I found myself in a position where I was being evicted out of my house, my car was being repossessed, and I needed to do something. So I used LinkedIn to get my clients, and I started like a marketing consulting business. So since 2011, I've used it, and it wasn't something I needed by necessity because I was going to be in the streets.
Yeah.
um, so I started using it since then, and then I created my company back in 2013. So I guess between 4 to 6 years.
Nice. And when did you really start? When did really things start to move for you? Like you started to feel like, oh yeah, I can actually make business out of this. Yeah, this is working. I'm actually getting some results here.
Oh, I'll tell you, the first when I was using it back in 2011, it took me like 3 months to get my first client.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea what I was doing. I bought some courses. I went through a lot of trial and errors. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. And then, um, but it was more like paying the bills while I went back to school, etc. But when it really became a business, and I started really seeing the value, was in 2014, because I launched the company mid 2013, like September, and then in 2014 I was doing it full time. So
Nice. Nice. Nice.
I
Nice.
was like, dude, that was it.
Oh, that's fantastic. As usual, when you start to really have your own company, that's when things start to move, and when you can make those
Oh yeah.
business connections, like like you've said before, I've heard you say before about how actually I read it in your article, 11 things I wish I knew when I was starting my
Yes.
business. That it's all about the people in the end, right? And
Oh yes.
I absolutely agree with that. So is that when you kind of had that revelation when you made your company like oh like if I know how to network, if I know how to market myself, I could do my own thing. Like I don't have to constantly just like struggle all the time to do it.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I'll tell you, when I first started, I had great mentors around me, and these mentors always pushed me.
Yeah,
I'll do something, and they say, "Hey, keep doing this, keep doing that. You're doing great." Or,
yeah,
"Nah, don't do this, don't do that," and that really pushed me to the next level. And then when I started getting my first couple customers, it really opened my eyes, and I'm like, it is really about the people, not just in the customer side, and we working with the client, but the people that are pouring in you, like the mentors, but also the people that you're working with. And so your colleagues, your partners, your employees, your staff.
yeah.
So it all comes around, having people.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And I found gradually I've found the exact same thing. I mean I don't know what it is. You know what it is? If I put a quick comment in here, I think it's like just when you see a business from the outside, it's
Yeah.
totally different than the inside. Like the basic operations of supply and demand are the same,
Yes.
but the reality is totally different, right?
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, you can look at my company, for
Yeah,
example. It's based around my brand, the LinkedIn guy, and then it's AGM. Um, but when you're looking inside the business, we have a operation team, we have a marketing team, we have finance. you don't see that on the outside. You just
No.
see the one thing. So I agree, man. But that's how it is, because
I love that. Yeah.
it's a lot of different moving parts that turns into one.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I love that you said that. It totally hit me. I was like, yeah, I totally agree, 100%. So how did you develop the system? Like now you have it in like a systemized form,
Yes.
right? So
Yes, yes. So what ended up happening? The system is set up in four part. We have our foundation, we have the research, we got the outreach, and we got the reporting. And what ended up happening was I started working with a few different clients, and I started noticing different patterns. Right. So I started noticing when we
right,
started
right.
working with them, what we were doing first, and then what we were doing second, what we were doing third.
Yeah,
And then I look back, I mean, I've worked with over 400 different clients. And I start looking back, and I'm like, wait a second, the one that were more successful was because we had a system in place. Everything was structured properly. And
that makes
because of
sense.
that process that I accidentally created, it dawned on me. I'm like, wait a second, all we need is those four steps. So I decided to put everything into paper. I put like a whole presentation around it. Now I'm in the process to see if I can get it patent and copyrighted, where now it becomes not only our internal process, but something that I can really share with the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. I find exactly the same. And you know what? You reminded me of, if you ever heard of Patrick Bet David?
Yes.
Yes,
I
he's.
was with Patrick actually a couple months ago. He was in New York.
Oh, no
Oh
kidding.
man, that was before I know you. He's a great guy. I connected with him on LinkedIn as well.
Wow. Yeah, I watched a lot of his content before. Him and his mentor, I think, Tom Ellsworth.
Hmm.
And one of his clips was a pretty short one. He was talking about how the most successful people's worst 100 days kill the worst 100 days of the people who aren't, as successful. And that means that the people who maybe aren't as, they have those days where they're performing just as
Yeah.
well, as some of the most successful people. But why is it that these people can, on their worst days, still perform much better than everybody else's worst days? And I believe, this my conclusion, is that they've systemized it. That's what I
Oh
think.
yeah. Oh yeah. I think system is everything. Like in your business, and you probably there's this show called The Profit with Marcus
Yeah,
Libonius. I forgot his last name, but he spoke about people, product, process. So what's your product or service? Who the people, and what's your process? And if you have that structured properly, then you have something. And that's what's missing for some new entrepreneurs or business owners starting out. You may not
absolutely.
have a process yet.
Yeah, I actually have a whole, like, it's a pretty long video, and then it continues into audio. It's called Production Hacks 101, Why You're Doing It
Hmm.
Wrong. And I'm basically saying that kind of thing exactly in there. So it's cool that we relate on so many things here
Yeah.
in terms of our thinking. I really had personally a hard time, like I knew that I needed a system, and I was trying to I had an
Yeah.
incredibly hard time actually getting it together to actually be a working system. Well, what did you find when you were developing your system?
So it was tough developing the system in the beginning as well, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know you need.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
um,
absolutely. Oh, yeah,
yeah. So when my mentors were telling me, my mentors, the coaches I was working with, hey, you need to create a system around what you do. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? I mean, I know what I do in the back of my mind, but I just didn't know how to do it. So
yeah,
I just started observing and looking at trends from all of our past clients. I mean, it took me a while to put that system together. It took me a couple years, but
yeah.
when
That
we
makes sense.
finally got it down pat, it's because I looked at everything that we've been doing, and I'm like, holy crap, these are the most similar stuff we do every time we work with a client.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's all about observation.
yeah. I hope everybody heard that. That it took him like 2 years to come up with this system, even after he had mentors. 2 years. So
Yes.
it's not like some people. I don't. I feel that there's this trend that where it's like entrepreneurship is so popular and so on that people think that, oh yeah, I could just be an entrepreneur and, like, set up a website, put on a product, put on a paywall, and business is gonna be booming, right?
Oh my God, you get those people on Instagram who just have all those pictures calling themselves entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
not really knowing what it takes.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I'd say if I was gonna say it in one sentence, like go long, right? Like just
Yeah,
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 there's
go all the way in. I mean, burn the boat and really
absolutely yeah,
focus. You can't
absolutely.
be doing several things at once. It gets complex, so your attention is being dispersed. So one of my favorite book, The One Thing with Gary Keller,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really, yeah, it is. If you really zoom down onto having the one thing, so once you figure that part out, you could end up having the businesses, but start with one, get that one to be successful, and then go on to having others.
absolutely. Yeah, it's I think Grant Cardone talks about it. He says stacking streams of income. So you focus on the one stream, and then once that's going,
Yeah,
then you start to stack on top of that. You don't try to do a
yeah,
bunch of streams at the same time, right?
yeah. Just have different flows. I love GC. Uncle G talk a lot about that. So when you have the different flows, it really works out. Like for our company, we have the LinkedIn training, we have the LinkedIn lead generation, we have LinkedIn advertising, we have our LinkedIn consulting. So we have different flow within that one thing.
Right, right, right. Exactly. And another point about the one thing, you can go even further besides just having one focus. And I've heard this guy, Success Insider. I don't know if you heard of him. He's on YouTube. He mentions
Uh-huh.
this, but basically, and Russell Brunson's similar too. There's that one thing that you do, one thing that you end up
Yeah.
doing, that thing that you put out there. Let's say it's a video, or I mean, nowadays people don't. The articles aren't pushing as hard as the video, as we were talking about before,
Yeah.
off the call. But um, yeah, so people really like are moving towards video content, and when you put that one video that just hits, if you're putting out videos every day, nothing hits. All
Yeah.
you need is one of them to hit, and then once that one video hits, then you're golden. Then you can build on top of that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you an example. Um, One of our articles back when articles popular on
Mm-hmm,
LinkedIn
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
was was earlier this year. Yeah, January hit. I had over 5,000 people that read it, and then the engagement started flowing. What I did that was smart is that in that article I put a call to action where folks can automatically sign up for our webinars, and we end up having several hundred people sign up for the webinar, and I'm like, holy crap. But I was putting content out for close to over a year before that happened.
Yeah, you never know, and it could happen like the first day. Who knows? But it couldn't. It might not happen for
Yeah.
years. It might not happen for years. So you really got to keep going, and I think to keep it real, like you said, you got to have those mentors, and you have to trial and error, a lot of experimentation.
Yes.
And what you mentioned about your article reminded me on Twitter when I post memes and stuff. Like I do a lot
Uh-huh.
of like thoughts and stuff. They'll just be random ones that'll just blow up, right? And I'll just be like, okay. And you're like, why? I don't know, but okay. you know?
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that. It's interesting, and I think that's it's that consistency, right? Really pick people's eyeballs. Sometimes people will watch you for years or even months and never see anything, and then that one good thing that that they feel connected to,
Yeah,
the floodgates open.
absolutely. Yeah, it's fantastic. Actually, I'm finding now that I'm doing live streaming every single day on Twitter. Now I'm getting a
Uh-huh.
lot of love. I'm getting a lot of love. So I want to know, like,
That's awesome.
how did you like when you started to get consistent? Like you were putting out how much content were you putting out a day, or would you put one piece of content a day, or would you do it every how many times a week, or how much content were you putting out when you decided
Good.
to go consistent?
I put one piece of content out every day, and then in addition to that, I have videos that I put out every week, and then I have articles that we put out every other week, and then in addition to that, I'm building my network internally. So I'm spending time reaching out to people internally, building the relationships consistently. So it's a lot of activities that goes on the back end that people don't see.
Yeah, I find
You
that
know,
that's where most of the time ends up going. Actually, that's when you're building those relationships with people one on one.
yes.
That's where I find most of the time ends up going. After all, right?
And that's the best because that's what really comes down to. It's the content create awareness and credibility. The relationships create the business.
Now I have an interesting question for you. What do you find who do you find your audience is like? I mean, sure, there's a lot of people in business and so on. But what is it about the people that you get in terms of wanting to go on the LinkedIn route and do it that way?
Great question. It's that's a very interesting question because it changes.
Oh, really?
Depends
Okay.
on the time of the yeah. Depends on the time of the year. We have different audiences that we end up working with. Sometime in the beginning of the year, we'll get insurance companies and technology companies, and then in mid-year or end of year, we'll get franchises. So it varies based on the time of the year and what kind of push the person want to do. One main thing that I notice is most people that come to us, their pipeline are dried up. So, they've been going to a lot of networking events. They're consistently for the past 20 years get referrals from their clients, but now those clients are dying or those clients are selling their businesses, and they're realizing more and more we have to do something. And social media is here, but we're not sure how to go about doing this. So they're going, like all of us, do research, and then they end up finding maybe a piece of my content or someone that connected them to something, and then from there the conversation starts.
Yeah, and I really like how you put that they find your content and then it's not like you're going out and like I'm sure you all are also going out and trying to target people specifically and so on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, but like at the same time, there's a whole other level when the person's coming to you, right? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'll give you an example. I just before our call, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, I love your YouTube videos," you know,
yeah,
and it's just the videos that I'm putting out. Now, understand, I don't have a big YouTube following. I just recently started using YouTube,
right,
but I'm being consistent.
right. And that's the number one factor. Absolutely, I've observed this. Like I've been like an observer of what's been going
Hmm.
on for years, and I figured that out that like already maybe now several years I figured out that like or longer like I figured out that it's not the ones that are necessarily doing something totally different or something or it's not just pure luck. It's the
No,
ones that are bringing the volume, right? And
yeah,
and they're authentic, right? They're not just posting crap. Like they're
yeah,
genuine about what they're doing, and
yeah.
yeah,
Uh, that's huge, man. I think that's very important. So definitely, I would recommend. I guess my last advice for everyone is whatever platform you're using, have a strategy, develop a plan, and then be consistent. Because you can't spend 3 months and then say, "Oh, I did it for 3 months, nothing happened."
yeah.
Sometimes it might take 6 months or a year or 2 years, but you gotta stick to it to so that something could happen.
Great, thanks. Those are fantastic closing notes, and I think we'll end it there. Thanks so much, Julbert. You're an amazing guy, and I love all the insights you brought. And I'm definitely want to learn more and go deeper with you to really know what you're all about on even deeper level. So just thanks for coming out
Absolutely.
here. Total pleasure.
Thank you, my friend. Have an amazing night.
Thanks so much, man. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Goodbye, man.